Hello. Welcome back to episode 244 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis Brown. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I am so glad that you're here this week. I hope that you will stay for a very long time and bring friends. Always bring friends. And if you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to rock with me. I wouldn't be here without you. And so I, of course, want you to stay. I want you to bring friends. I want you to continue to talk about the podcast and support us because we're going to keep growing and I need you. And I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you. Before we get started, I always like to be foundational. So for those of you that are listening or watching, because yes, this is our second episode where there are visuals available. We're going to just keep going as long as I can because this is a lot. But for those of you, like I said, who are watching and listening, before I like to dive into new subjects, I always want to be foundational. And it's really important to me that we set the stage of what we do here because I created the Well Done Life brand and podcast because I believe in the power of women. And I believe in us creating spaces where we can be our most vulnerable selves and where we share the good, the bad, the ugly of it all so that we can help each other elevate and grow. So knowing that that's what this is about, I like to make sure that this is created like a safe space. I want to make sure that this space feels warm and loving and supportive. So it's very important to me that we make sure that this safe space is built on a strong foundation. And with that, that means that we have to make sure that everyone understands that our foundation is clarity and love. Clarity is really straightforward. Like I said, I want you to understand that I created this space for women because I believe in us. I'm not about gatekeeping. I'm about sharing my journey so that you can learn from me because I'll be honest, I don't want you to make the same mistakes I've made. I've made some really crazy mistakes and I don't want you to go through the same things that I've gone through. I want you to be better than me. But I also have learned on the journey of healing and growing that there are other women that we have to learn from as well. I mean, we are all going through life in so many different ways. And so I like to spotlight other women here as well and talk about their journey so that you can see that it's possible for you to do it too. It's possible for you to be better. It's possible for you to have spaces where you feel safe and can share your story without fear of judgment, without fear of, somebody plotting against you. We are always talking about, haters and all these things. I think there are more people who want to see you win versus who don't want to see you win. So hopefully this space shows you that and inspires you to share your story because there's somebody out there right now watching you. Yes, there's somebody watching you and they're being inspired by you. And so I want us to make this beautiful chain and continuously tell our stories because that's where healing happens. That's where progress happens. That's where growth happens. That's where love blooms. And love is the thing. And that's the second foundation that this podcast is built on, that this brand is built on. It's about love. And so everything that we do in this space will always be rooted in love. And along that line, I always like to make sure that I start every podcast off by sharing prayers with you. I've been standing on a few foundational pillars for a little while now, so I'm going to keep in alignment with that. And so my first pillar of prayer that I have been standing on is the power of peace. I really want you to be able to claim peace for you. And when I say claim peace for you, I feel like we have to create spaces where we sit still, where we actually just stop moving for a little bit, where we just sit down and listen. And so hopefully you're able to cultivate space for you. And I don't know what that looks like for you. That actually sometimes looks like for me, just sitting in my car, sometimes a little extra long. I've mentioned that several times before. I am notorious. I love to sit in the car and have peace of mind. My husband and I actually, when we were dating, and actually we still do it now, we will have car therapy, is what we call it, where we will just sit in the car and just kind of like talk and catch up about things or, just share thoughts and feelings because it's our time before we get outside of this car and go back into the real world. I hope you find space, even if it's in the car, for you to have a moment of peace because in a moment of peace, which is my second prayer, leading into my second prayer, for you, of clarity, in peace is where you find clarity. And I think it's essential, especially in times like this, that you have moments where you can be clear. There's lots of things that you're going to be required to do. There's lots of energy coming to you. There's lots of demands on your time, lots of people wanting to share information. You have to be able to give yourself space to regulate so that you can see things clearly so that you can see the truth for what it is and you can make decisions accordingly. Because a lot of times we make decisions based upon emotion, not necessarily facts. And a lot of times those situations occur when we are at moments of not feeling peaceful, where we are feeling pressured and anxiety, and we wind up making decisions that cost us time, energy, money, all types of things later on down the line because we just didn't have that moment to think. And so give yourself moments to think. Somebody else's emergency is not your urgency. You have to be able to give yourself the space that you need in order to make clear decisions because it's about you ultimately, not necessarily about them, but about you. It's about how you feel in that particular moment. Have you had time to process and think? And don't get me wrong, I know every situation doesn't always, a lot of times, allow you that. But I think we also have to give ourselves the grace to be able to say to people, I need a moment. And that moment may be 5 minutes, it may be 10 minutes, it may be an hour, it may be 2 days, whatever it looks like for you that is necessary for you to process. And I think it is fair for us to give ourselves those time because you deserve it. Remember, anything that you decide is ultimately going to affect you, and you have to look out for you. You have to put you first in some instances in order for you to be able to thrive, in order for you to be able to survive. So give yourself sometimes that peace and clarity that you need. And then rounding into my last two prayers, I always want you to be surrounded in love. I want you to be surrounded in love because it is so important. And when I'm talking about love, it's not necessarily romantic love. Of course, I want you to have romantic, supportive, reciprocal love. But I also want you to have strong love from family and friends, your community, your clique, your tribe, your people. You need community. Um, don't get caught up in how the world may make you think sometimes that you can do everything alone. You can't, and you shouldn't have to. You have people in your life who can help you, who really want to help you. They want to help you with no conditions. They want to help you because they want to see you win. People who love you and pour into you, value those people, and be one of those people back to them. Reciprocal. Reciprocity is key in every day of life. I don't care what time of year it is, what kind of day it is. Reciprocity is essential. And because even in that moment, it may not pay off, but long term, it pays dividends. So allow yourself to create spaces where you are cultivating reciprocal relationships because that is, like I said, when it's going to be key. There is no one that is going to come to save you. And you have to be able to recognize that and have the tools and the support around you to help you move forward. And so then that also leads right into my last prayer, which I'm standing on, and I'm always going to stand on abundance. I want you to be blessed financially. I do. I want you to have a blessing so big that the windows of heaven can't contain it. I do, because I know then that you will be a blessing to yourself and to other people. But I also want you to be abundant in your spirit. I don't want you to get so caught up in everyday life and trying to make money and trying to hustle and trying to do things that you are not creating space for the intangibles, the little moments and memories that will make you wealthy in your spirit, because there's never going to be enough. And when I say that, it's about, if you're always focused on trying to make money, there's never going to be enough. There's always going to be something out there that you're going to want to chase if that is your focus. But if your focus is really about just creating a life of comfort, it's about creating memory and joy with the people that you love, on top of always and being able to be financially blessed. Because I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't be. It's just you have to kind of shift your focus on what it is, because kind of like what I said before, if you are in a mindset where you're always chasing money, where you are always trying to seek it, you are essentially giving out that energy like money doesn't come to you. Like you can't keep money. You got to constantly run after it. So hopefully you see where I'm going with that. You shouldn't have to chase. You are abundant naturally. You bring forth positive energy and resource to you because that's who you are. That's what you deserve. And so you have to believe that, and then put that energy out so that money will come to you, versus being in the other side of it where you're constantly chasing behind money. So those are my prayers for you this week. I hope you will accept them truly from the bottom of my heart. I am so honored to be in a space where I get to share my heart with you and for you to share your heart with me. So thank you. And so, yes, we are here, and I am really excited about being here. It is Saturday, January the 17th. I'm recording at 12:43 p.m. p.m. And it is so good to be back. And I'm really excited about today's topic. But I want to thank everyone for their support of last week's episode, The Grief of Growth, or Grief in Growth. That is kind of, like I said, kind of starting a series. I don't really even know what the title of the series is. We're going to just kind of keep it going, just like we're doing with this YouTube. And please excuse me, like I'm trying to play with lighting and do some things. So over the next couple of weeks, if this continues, because I still haven't decided, because I'll be honest, it is really nice to be behind the camera than to be in front of it sometimes. But I'm challenging myself to do new things because I want to make sure that my content is accessible to everyone. So, you know, I'm gonna get better. That's all I can say, because I'm already like critiquing this visual in my head and playing with this new platform to see if I like it for a visual approach. And so share feedback, share thoughts, be kind and considerate and constructive. If it's negative, you can go ahead and keep that to yourself. But I will say, if you like listening, there's always Apple Music and all the other streaming platforms. And if you like visuals, then baby, let's go on the YouTube. And hey, we just got a little bit of something for everybody and a little bit of growth happening at the same time. But I digress into that. That is my PSA. I'm not doing it again. I'm just, like I said, really proud of myself to actually have been doing this for the second time. But again, I want to thank everyone for their support. Like I said in last week's episode, The Grief and Growth, because there is a cost to choosing yourself, and the cost is high, and there can be grief in not being who you were previously, and recognizing what you settled for versus what you're not willing to settle for now. And so I wanted to talk about it because I think, again, we always try to hype everybody up about changing and growing. And we talk about all the positives, but we do have to talk about the challenges, because the challenges can, I'll be honest, help in some instances make people give up on their journey of choosing themselves, because they are so caught up in trying to preserve relationships that don't serve them, even though they know that they don't serve them, but they still want to stay connected to these people. Because let's be honest, sometimes those relationships are family members. Sometimes those relationships are, people that we are connected to by blood, by love, by all types of things. And it's really hard to let go. It's really hard to make adjustments. It's really hard to choose ourselves, because we naturally want to choose other people. But hopefully that episode gave you something to think about in regards to the grief and growth, and maybe some inspiration to keep going. Because remember, recognizing that it is a challenging season, recognizing that it's difficult, is a sign that you have finally recognized your worth. It's a sign of recognizing that you deserve better and that you're ready for more. And so this is your time to go get more. And I hope that episode kind of acts like a bridge. But like I mentioned, we're kind of building a series. I don't really have a title yet for it. Hopefully we'll figure that out. But for today, I wanted to talk about the aspect of the pressure that there is in regards to reinventing ourselves when we're growing, the new mindset, the new boundaries, the new identity. But one of the things that I've learned is that real growth doesn't require erasing who you are. It requires integrating what you've learned. And what I mean by that is, again, it's always this new boundaries, new us, the new year, new you. And one of the things that I've been meditating on is that in this growth season, real growth doesn't require me erasing who I was. It requires me actually integrating finally what we've learned, what I've learned on this journey. Because I'm going to tell you something, for all the things that I've undergone and all the growth that I have done to this point, I've recognized that even though I learned that I allowed myself to be in relationships that didn't honor me, I didn't become harder. I became clearer. When I recognized that I needed to be a little bit more direct with my boundaries, when I recognized that I needed to be stronger with my discernment, I didn't lose my softness. And so I want to use this episode as an opportunity to talk about what happens when we actually stop trying to perform growth, and I'm putting that in air quotes, perform it, and we decide to actually start living it. Yeah, let's talk about what it means to actually live it. And so, kind of starting it off, I want to talk about why you don't really need to reinvent yourself, why reinvention is overrated. And when I say it's overrated, again, I want to talk about how we feel this pressure just because it's the trendy thing to do, that every year we go into this new version of ourselves, or every time we grow and evolve, we're a new person. And we have this desire because we want to align with newness, we want to align with change, that we distance ourselves from the past versions of who we were. And because, of course, you're new now, you've learned. So you're not the same person that you were. And I've said it myself, like I'm not who I used to be. And of course, you're not. You are evolving and growing, and you are becoming more. But I think what we have to understand is that it really wasn't about you changing into somebody who you're not. It really is about learning how you need to integrate into who you were, because foundationally you were always enough. And I want to make sure before we kind of dive into it too, I want to address this because I think one of the reasons why it's so easy to say new you, new person, new you, all these things is because sometimes changing ourselves becomes a feeling that feels safer, that feels easier, that feels better than actually deciding that, you know what, I'm foundationally who I need to be. I just need to I need to integrate these new things that I'm learning versus trying to be somebody that is so totally new. Because I think we need to understand that sometimes reinvention isn't growth. It actually is avoidance dressed up as progress. Yeah. I'm going to say that again because I know that might have sounded a lot. But yeah, sometimes reinvention is not growth. It's actually avoidance dressed up as progress. It's this urge to run from who you were instead of honoring actually what you learned. And like I said, I know that this can sound a little tricky, a little tough. I want to make sure that that you all understand that I'm using this conversation, and I hope you will as well, to allow your thought about whether you're in a cycle of, reinvention versus learning how to integrate into who you already were as an opportunity, as an opening for creating something a little bit deeper within yourself. Because it's a beautiful thing when we learn how to stop trying to be different versions of ourselves, and we learn how to love who we are, who we always were foundationally, but with more lessons, with a little bit more knowledge. When we've really decided, I don't need to run, I just need to get better. I need to deal with me and grow and integrate. And so I know integration is a little bit different, and it can actually, sound very overwhelming, very different than what we're used to. Because, like I said, it is a constant cycle, myself included, of new me, new year, new you, all these things. And we talk about it on all different aspects of our lives. But now let's talk about what it looks like to actually say, I don't need to become somebody different. I need to just integrate and get better. I was already good enough. And so here, like I said, it's about deciding that the things that you've learned, you want to bring in. So for myself, like I gave the example, I didn't get harder. When I learned that I needed to have boundaries, I mean, I didn't stop being foundationally who I was. I've always strived to be a very kind person, very open, very understanding. And when I recognized that my boundaries were not being respected, where I was putting myself in positions where I wasn't being honored, I recognized in that I needed to find a way to balance out keeping my kindness with boundaries, because I tried it both ways. Like, I'm not going to pretend. I have tried it where, and it's natural, where you naturally start to have an extremely strong cut game when you recognize that you're not being respected, especially as it relates to boundaries. And I don't care what anyone says. My husband says this all the time too. Pisces have a strong cut game. Like, I have a strong cut game. I really do. I really do. Now, it takes me a lot. I am not built to cut people off instantly sometimes, unless there's just something that doesn't align with me spiritually with you. I can cut you, but Pisces have a strong cut game. And so I'll be honest, I went to the extremes at first. Like, I was trying to, like, this doesn't honor my boundaries. I'm through. And I recognized, after seeing how I was navigating some of the relationships that I was having with people that I really loved and not giving them the opportunity to explain to me. I look back and I think about some of the relationships that I cut off instantly because I found that it was disrespected my boundaries. I think some of those relationships could have been saved. I think I could have communicated how I was feeling a lot more clearly, so that we would have come to a place of respect and understanding, versus me just deciding to cut it off because it just instantly didn't jive with me, and just trying to play the hard rigid role. I recognize through growth and integration that everybody doesn't have to be instantly cut off. Like I said, there are some things that are egregious to your spirit that don't align with your boundaries and your moral compass, and you cut them off. But I think, looking back on it, and knowing where I am now and where I was then, as I've healed, I learned I need to do a better job of communicating. Like, I can always be kind, I can always care, and still not ever do business with you again, not really be cool, tight with you. But it took me navigating through the hurt and recognizing that just because this person took advantage of me in this situation does not necessarily mean that I can still not be courteous. I can still not be gracious. I can, answer emails and have conversation and offer support when I see you do amazing things, and just still never feel comfortable with, doing other things with you because of the boundary violation. And so I think it's, like I said, it's again recognizing that everything is not an extreme. Because when you're living in these cycles of extremes, that's where, if you think about it, it's like, always I have to become somebody different. I focus into the new, because it's easier to say absolute no to a lot of different things because that doesn't align with who I am now, this new person, versus recognizing that foundationally you're a kind person. You have a beautiful heart. And unfortunately, this person violated a boundary, but you still love this person. You recognize now that this boundary is one that will keep your relationship only at a certain level. And so, if you love that person, it may be easier to say, or it is easier, not necessarily may, it is easier to say to yourself or to that person, because, again, choosing how you communicate it is appropriate, or based upon the situation, based on how you feel, that you felt violated. And because of this violation, I will always love you, I will always respect you, I'll always support you. However, we will never have this type of relationship again. Yeah. And I know that's a hard conversation. Believe me, I've had it and I've received it. And it's not easy. But at the end of the day, you have to respect it, because that's how that person felt. It's how you made that person feel. And so you have to move forward with that understanding. Maybe in time things will change and grow, maybe they won't. But it's not like you're wishing ill on that person. It's just, you've got a clear boundary and that's it. But you still were at the same time able to maintain your integrity and your kindness. Hopefully you guys are feeling me. But that's really what this is about. That's what integration is really all about. I mean, let's talk about it in the sense of actually, loving people without overextending. Many of us are in situations, we are constantly on the move. We are constantly giving to people, constantly trying to be everything to everybody. And then feeling like on the back end, nobody is being everything that I need for me. and you're tired. And so you make this decision that, you know what, this type of overextending behavior doesn't honor who I am anymore. And so you start to have boundaries. You start to recognize that, I can help you, but I can't enable you. I mean, I've talked about it before. I had a really interesting relationship. I'm going to say it like that. Really up and down relationship. Actually, I'm going to say it better this way, with my brother before he passed away. It was, to me, sometimes love, sometimes manipulation. It was so many different things. And my brother had his proclivities. And, I got to a point where I got tired of trying to yell and scream about, you know, why he treats me the way that he does, why he treats himself the way that he does. I got tired of trying to beg him to want more because I wanted more. I got tired of being overextending all the time. You're contacting me all the time for money. And it felt like I was an ATM and not your sister. And so I recognized that there was going to become a point where I can help, but I can't overextend. I can't keep trying to give my time, my energy to someone who doesn't want it. And I had to recognize it may not even be a matter that he doesn't want it. He just may not be in a place to receive it. And that's okay. But in order to protect me, I had to hold back. And so I started holding back. I started putting a little distance in our relationship. I stopped answering text messages. I stopped being stressed out all the time. And it was hard. And I felt guilty for so long. But I recognized as I started to heal, as I started to work through it in therapy, I have to stop trying to be everything to everyone because I'm already feeling like I'm being everything to everyone in every other aspect of my life. I'm a caregiver. I have my mom and my sister. And it was just like I'm pulled in so many different directions, and I felt like there was nothing. And I've learned by trial and error and by recognizing that it is not my job to be everyone's savior, that I can give, but I also can preserve. And I say it clearly with bass in my little voice now and with strength when I feel that way. Or in some instances, I don't, because I don't necessarily need to, because my behaviors already dictate how I'm moving. So pretty much people understand I'm only going to give so much. And it doesn't mean that I don't love you, doesn't mean that I don't value you, but I'm going to be honest, I value me. And so I can't allow myself to be in positions where I'm not valuing me. And so I think that is an example of recognizing that, it's not about me trying to have a strong cut game. It's not about me trying to say it under being a new me, new you. It's just me recognizing I can still be loving. I can still be kind. I can still be giving. I just don't have to save you. And giving myself the space to do that. Because in that space, it allowed me to move a little bit slower without guilt. It allows me to preserve my energy, my health, mentally and physically, because I'll be honest, it was starting to wear on me. I remember one instance in particular. I had an argument with my brother about his drinking and about how, you're constantly calling me for money, but you're sitting up in here drinking yourself to death. Like, why are you making these decisions? Why don't you love yourself? And literally he had nothing to say. And I wasn't helping that situation. Looking back on it, he wasn't ready. He wasn't willing. This is where he wanted to be. Or even if that's not where he really wanted to be, he didn't have the strength to crawl out, and he didn't have the strength to ask for help. He wasn't asking for help outside of the money. And I literally remember arguing with him so much that I wound up having a headache for 2 days after that. Like my blood pressure had shot up so high. And I was like, I'm literally risking my health mentally and physically to try to save somebody who doesn't want to be saved. Sometimes you have to let people be where they're going to be. And I just stopped because I can't always move in. And so again, I'm highlighting this and I'm telling you this because when you learn that you can love people from a distance, when you learn that you don't always have to be the one with the cape on trying to save everybody. When you learn that you are able to have boundaries and still be kind and be able to move when it suits you in a loving manner, you see the power of being able to integrate versus recognizing that you don't have to change because you are enough. It's just that you are becoming, you are developing, you are becoming more in alignment with who you were born to be. Because really, that's what it is. It's like integration is when your values and your behaviors finally match. Like there's no split between who you say you are and how you live. Because a lot of people like to talk a good game about, oh, I got these boundaries. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm putting people on notice because that again is part of that new you, new vision. Like I'm trying to do the air quotes, all those things. That's part of it. In this instance, it's like you have a resolve, you have a peace because you know that how I feel, how I talk, how I act, everything is in alignment. I am becoming who I was born to be, who I deserve to be. And I don't have to try to keep chasing a new version of me because I was always enough. I just needed to start integrating the actual things that I'm talking about into practice, into my life, into my value set. Hopefully that's all kind of aligning. And I want to kind of also use this next part to talk about the discernment in this because again, when you made this decision went to integrate versus like I said, kind of change that new into this new version of yourself, you're recognizing that now you're clearly moving on discernment versus hardness. Because a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, that new you, that new version of you, that you're, constantly changing, like, and then like, it's like hardcore because you got that new energy. Um, versus recognizing that your discernment doesn't require you to be hardcore. It just requires you to recognize that you have the knowledge to know what serves you and what doesn't. And so I want you to understand that this is really about understanding that you integrating into who you are, you accepting your boundaries, you deciding that you don't need to be any new version of you is you saying that my boundaries don't require bitterness. Yep. Your boundaries don't require bitterness. Growth doesn't require being cold. You can still be the same loving person that you've always been and still have limits as to how far you're willing to go. And that your time, your energy, however you give it, is a choice. It is not a requirement any longer. Because discernment isn't about shutting things down or shutting people out, it's about protecting what matters. And when you are integrated, that protection feels calm. It does. It's not defensive. It is actually that peace, that calm, that resolve, because you know you are finally stepping into who you were born to be. You were truly born to be. Because I want to remind you of something before we start talking about that a little bit further. I I really want, and I think people need to understand this. And yeah, let me just say it plain. Okay. Remember, biblically, we are created in God's image, right? And so if we are created in God's image, we are perfect. So if you were created in God's image and you are perfect, why are you trying to chase another version of you? Why do you need a new version of you? Because I thought God is perfection. So if we were created in God's image, you are perfect already. You just need to know that. You need to understand that. And that you having discernment, you learning boundaries, you learning all these new things that are a part of you are not about you becoming a new person. It's about you stepping into the fullness of who you were born to be. Yeah. So like I said, like now we've recognized, we finally, the lights have gone on. And I hope that as you're watching this or listening to this, like the light has gone on, like that kind of made sense. It's like, that is true. Like, why am I trying to be somebody different if God already said I was perfect because I was born in his image? So why do I need a new side of myself? I don't need a new version of me. I need to take the things that I'm learning and integrate them into who I am and step even further into the fullness of God's call on my life, of who I am in Christ, of who I am in this world. Because if I was born in God's image, I'm already enough. I just needed to recognize that. I needed to learn it. And so, like I said, this is where when you start to integrate, you start to feel that calm. You don't have a defensiveness about it. You start to feel the resolve. And this is where, like I said, you settle in. You don't gear up. It's like you recognize that you are at where you need to be. And one thing, and that I will share with you, I feel like this year has been a year so far of integration for me. And don't get me wrong, I know we're only 17 days into 2026. I get it. I get it. But it's definitely been an interesting 17 days. Like, life has been doing what it's doing. And I still feel calm. I still feel resolve. Even as I'm moving through life and exercising my boundaries, I still feel calm. It's like this settle in my spirit. And I have to admit, one of the biggest things that I've noticed about me going into this year is that I don't feel the need to explain myself anymore. And it's not because I don't care. In some or certain instances, though, I'm not gonna lie, I don't care. Like, I don't know if it's just like I'm gearing up for 53 or what, but there are certain things I recognize now I just don't care about. But in most instances, I'm recognizing that I do care. I just don't feel the need to explain myself because my life reflects my growth in ways that words will never be able to. And I want you to think about that for yourself, like how you're feeling. Because if you understand what I'm saying, and because I know that there are some of you who understand what I'm saying, it's like there's this peace that is over you because you finally decided that you are going to step into the fullness of who you are, that you are good enough. You don't need to chase another version of yourself anymore. You finally recognize that you just need to integrate the lessons that you're learning. There's a peace about you, even outside, and when madness is around you, there still is a peace. And that is always going to speak louder than what words ever could. Because for me, I've always been a person to explain myself. I always fit it. And it's really a tie for me because I've always been that person to try to make everybody feel good and always try to explain and justify my actions and moves. I do it in every aspect of my life, or I have done it in every aspect of my life. I'm not doing it now because I felt like I had to, make sure that everybody felt good. And I didn't recognize that by me constantly explaining, I was keeping myself tethered to other people's comfort instead of my own alignment. Because again, like I said, I was just always trying to be focused on making sure that everybody felt good. Everybody understands why I'm making the moves that I'm making versus recognizing that I don't have to explain my moves. I need to just do what I need to do because I know, rooted in who I am, everything I do is going to be rooted in a place of love. And I'm naturally going to think about my decisions. I just don't need to explain them because I finally trust me. And I trust myself enough to recognize that God is in the center of my life. And so I know that God is a true force and guide for me. And so now, stepping into the fullness of who I am, because like we just discussed earlier, if we were made in God's image and God is perfect and we are a reflection of that perfection, then I don't need to trust any further. I need to trust in who God called me to be. And that means he's equipping me with the resources and knowledge and strength and support that I need in order to move forward. And so now I recognize that guidance, that trust in him is making me quieter. It's making me quieter. It's making me calm. It's making me settled because I recognize who I belong to and where my strength comes from. Because really, this is the place where rubber kind of meets the road. It's kind of like that place where your faith shows up without needing to announce itself. It really does. It gives you that strength, that resolve that you need. Because I recognize that as long as I'm in alignment with what God's will is for my life, I don't need to try to convince anyone anymore of who I am. Because as long as God's good with it, I'm good with it. And that's the standard that I live with now. It is. There's no defensiveness in it. It's just truth. And when I think about it, again, kind of like I said, I'm letting my life speak for my growth. I recognize that the evidence of my growth isn't in what I say. It's in how I move. It's in my peace. It's in my marriage. It's in my decisions. It's how I show up. And so I don't need to announce my growth. I live it, and that's enough for me. Make it enough for you. Yeah, make it enough for you. It's time to stop allowing those fears and those feelings to make you feel like you have to announce who you are, like you need to tell everybody that there's a new place, a new season, it's a new version of you. Just live it. Live it and know that God is the root of it, and He will guide you and protect you and give you the strength that you need to go forward. And just go forward. So as we are kind of wrapping up, I have a few things to ask you, What parts of you are asking to be integrated and not replaced? Where are you performing growth instead of embodying it? And what would you change if you trusted that who you are right now is enough to move forward? Remember one thing. Wholeness doesn't announce itself. It settles in. Settle in. Be integrated. You are always enough. We don't need another you. We just need you. The best version of you. The you that trusts who you are. The true you that has decided you're ready to go forward and live your best life. So go live your best life because you deserve it. Okay? Okay. So that is this week's episode. I want to thank you guys again for your love and support. I hope that I've given you something to think about, hopefully to help you be the best version of you because you deserve it. Let's just go live and be the best versions of ourselves. I will be back next week with another episode. I am planning on doing another season where I let you guys see what it's like when I record. So we're just going to go ahead and just plan that out. Definitely please share feedback in the notes, tag me on social media. I'll have all of my information in the show notes, regardless of whatever platform you're looking for. Don't be afraid to hit me up. I would love to support you on your journey and hear about your journey. And so let's grow, learn, and live our best lives together. I hope that you are having an amazing day. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll talk soon. Okay? Bye.